But in general, we have a certain language about us, the way we communicate. We communicate around money and politics and around our families and all those kind of things. And we're really unaware of it until someone from a different culture walks in and then affronts that. And we think, wow, they're from a different planet almost, okay? Then we would recognize their culture. Well, those who have grown up in systemic poverty are going to feel a little bit like they're from a different culture. So often when we say one thing, they're going to interpret it differently and vice versa. And so it's bigger than just numbers to pull them out of that situation.
From the Studio 13 Studios in Splendora, Texas.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Hank's Think Tank. I got somebody really good in here today. I got Tricia Bledsoe, and she is the director of Mission Northeast. Mission Northeast does a lot actually, and I'm going to let her go over everything that they do as we get into this conversation. But today we're going to talk about poverty in America, and this is a much larger topic than I think most people realize. It's pretty in depth. And Trish knows a lot about this particular topic, and I think we're gonna have a really good conversation. I'm looking forward to it. Before I get started, though, I wanted to thank everybody that's recently subscribed to the channel. We're going pretty fast, approaching 100,000 subscribers. I don't think it'll be long, and I don't really know what to think about that. That's quite an accomplishment. I didn't see the channel going that way for quite a long time, but now I think it's starting to, take hold. So thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate the support. Good morning, Trish. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So poverty in America. I started looking up some statistics about poverty just so I could have it clear in my own mind, kind of where we stand in America, because I knew it was a problem, but I didn't think it was as big as it is.
For sure.
So according to recent stats, 10.6% of Americans live in poverty today. Mm-hmm. I didn't know it was that big. That's huge. That actually equates to about 35 million of us. Mm-hmm. 35 million people that live in poverty. And so the poverty line, is about 31,000 and a little bit of change per year. Now that freaks me out because one of my best jobs that I ever had back in 94 was the head of the computer department at a direct marketing firm.
Right.
And I made about 36. So I was just barely above the poverty line. And then when you take out taxes and stuff, I think it put me below the poverty line. And I thought we were kicking it. I thought we were doing good. So what's the deal with poverty in America? And can it be beat? How did we get here and how do we get out?
Well, interestingly, that statistic, you said 10.6?
10.6.
That's a national average.
Yeah.
So I'm primarily in Montgomery County, Texas. And so, because I know you have almost 100,000 people.
Yeah,
it's
so
amazing.
It's all over. Yeah.
And so it's everywhere. So they may not realize that in Montgomery County, that is about our average for poverty, but over 16% of that is in East County where I'm located. So we are predominantly, it's a much larger picture of that.
Okay.
And so when you start talking about numbers, you're talking about probably median income. Like we would talk about median income in our area. For a single adult, a median income in our area, New Caney and those surrounding areas, is about 46 right now. So when you start talking about low income, you take 20% less than median income for a single adult. And then when you go through poverty, you go even further than that. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know about you, but have you tried to rent a place to live, buy a car, fill up your tank, keep the groceries going, even as a single individual on 46 is a stretch just to find rent. There's a lot of rent shock in our area.
I don't know if it can be done.
You're not living well. You're probably living with a roommate just so that you can make ends meet, and you're struggling. And so then imagine if you're low income, drop that by 20%. Now that's not poverty still. We're still low income. And you're going to go probably another 20% and you're going to go to the poverty rate. And at that point, you're no longer able to meet your own needs. You're going to have assistance somewhere.
So, and are you talking about like picking up a third roommate then? Or
Well, that's when they start coming to see me. And often they come to see me just when they're at low income rates because they're struggling to make groceries. These are people who don't have what I call, if you have a sick day, the majority of us at least have some paid time off, or maybe we're not in fear of losing our home or losing our, our paycheck's not going to be so much lower. Imagine a family of 4 and dad comes home with the flu. He's an hourly wage earner. They have one car in this family, and you've got one teenager who's in school, another one who's elementary, and mom and dad are both working just minimum wage jobs, $12-15 an hour maybe. That's where they're at. And then the daughter's now working kind of a part-time job just to help, and she's not helping to pay for all the fun stuff at school. She's helping with the family. Dad comes home with the flu. Well, the flu doesn't stick around for one person. Pretty soon we've got mom sick and the daughter sick. Now everyone's missed school and work, but more importantly, they've missed paychecks. They don't have sick days. They don't have paid time off. They don't have savings. And you would say, well, maybe they should save better. Maybe they should put some more money away. Well, they don't have that money. They're literally always chasing the next bill or the next moment. And so their margin for that is really, really tight.
Yeah, there's just no cushion.
There's no cushion. And the ability to get ahead of cushion, there isn't that in their life, because life happens to all of us, right? And so pretty soon now they're looking at rent. They got to pay rent for the month, and they can't pay it because they've missed so much work. And even though they're back at work, they're now missing this ability to keep themselves housed. This is a huge issue, especially in our area, as we began to see the median income increase across East Montgomery County, especially because that's growing so fast. We're seeing people fall into this place where they have what we call rent shock, where what they could get for $800 a few years ago, they're getting for like $1,200 and $1,500, $1,600 now. They're not living better.
Rents are crazy.
They're stretching more. So now we look at this family. We've got this family of 4. They're not going to make their rent. It's not going to be very long, especially when we have someone who can get such a great rate for rent before they're going to be evicted and they're living in their car. We know that in East Montgomery County, when we do the numbers, it cost our county roughly, this is the startling thing when I began to take this dive into this area. We think, okay, you're unemployed or you're homeless. That's free, right? That doesn't cost anything.
Right.
It's actually really expensive. Being homeless and being without a job is actually very costly. And that surprised me when I began to do the numbers. It cost our county on average $24,000 per person who is homeless. And that is so shocking. And if you go into Harris County, that number dramatically goes up.
So how does it cost us if they're homeless?
So it costs us by simple things. They're not paying rent anymore. They're also, if they're unemployed, because they're going to be living in their car, pretty soon they're showing up to work. They're not as clean. They're tired. They're struggling on so many areas. They're not showing up to work on time. They lose their jobs. Now we have people who are not paying into taxes. They're not buying goods and services. There's all kinds of ancillary costs. Then you have the children. It's hard to go to school when you don't have clean clothes or you haven't had a decent meal or a place to stay. When you're living in this extreme survival mode now, and they're moving around to different places, they begin to miss school. So the cost of the county for a kid who begins to be truant is an additional cost.
Right.
Now in our county, one of the things that's been outlawed is panhandling, and that was for the safety of our citizens and that sort of thing. But this can very quickly escalate this matter. Let's say they're at a gas station and he begins to ask around for money to put in the tank because they've lost their jobs at this point. Mm-hmm. And the service managers had enough. They call the county. He gets arrested, thrown in jail. That number moves from 24 to 100,000 because the cost of incarcerating somebody is exponential. Now, to get them out of this spiral that they're in is tens of thousands of dollars to begin to pull them back out of this situation, right? When the whole solution for this family might have been to disrupt the spiral before it started. In other words, let's help them with some rent assistance. Let's prevent their homelessness before they end up there. And that's where an agency like ours steps in, and we're able to do a lot.
So Mission Northeast, you provide food assistance and rent assistance and other various things to try to break the cycle before it begins.
Right.
Correct?
Right. And
how successful is that normally?
Well, at preventing homelessness, it's very successful. We also do even more utility, and that's a case-by-case basis, and we do even more utility assistance. Our primary objective is food, clothing, and shelter. If you don't have basic needs, where do you go from there? How do you move your life in any direction if you can't provide for those basic needs? When you're needing food, you really can't think of, I should probably go back to school and get certified in something. Like, that's not even on your radar whatsoever. And so we like to say we can meet them in that middle place. Now, there's certain populations within our own demographics. There's the grandma living on Social Security with 3 of her grandchildren, and she's coming in month after month needing our help. We give away clothing. We give away 13 to 15,000 pieces of clothing a month. And that kind of equals out to about $3 to $5 million in used clothing. If you've gone to thrift stores lately, they can be pricey. But when you're needing that, and they love to shop, and we have a pretty good sized boutique inside where people give us donations. We immediately get them out to the public, and we want to make sure that if you come in barefoot, you don't walk out barefoot. That kind of thing.
Right.
If you need a coat, all those things, but just normal clothing of all kinds of variations. Normal housewares. We have housewares, bedding and sheets and blankets and dishes and pots and pans. Those are things that you're not going to buy if you're struggling to feed yourself. Mm-hmm. Those are not going to be your primary thing when you go to the store. You're looking to say, what can I make? And then, of course, food. We give away about 1,000 families a month, and those are families, not individuals. And so that can be one person up to many of our families are quite large. And so everyone gets what we consider a grocery cart, a literal grocery cart full of food. And we're really happy that we're able to supply them with so much.
Okay. So what do you think the biggest myth is about people in that situation, people who are poor, people who are at poverty level?
I think that there's several. I think one of them is we see people sometimes, the first one would be that all people have old cars. Mm-hmm. Let's say that. So there's a couple of different ways we enter poverty. One is situational, like the family I mentioned earlier. Maybe they were living on the edge. Maybe they are already they're what we call the working poor. Like, they are working, they're struggling, they're living on the edge.
Right.
And it doesn't take a lot in life to push them off that edge. I like to say that the more stable they get, the further away from that line they get. And so we want to get them as far away from that as we can to the point where they're so far away that they're now thriving. In other words, they're giving back and helping the community. And that is always our goal. There's those people like the grandma who ends up on Social Security, and then she ends up raising grandchildren, and she's barely covering her own expenses. Okay, those are situational. Mm-hmm. She may have grown up in poverty on some level, but the situations in life are also keeping her there. Mm-hmm. There's also the middle class person who's lost their job and they've been out of work for a year, and they're walking in. We've had, when the government shut down, we had a lot of people show up who were suddenly struggling after months of being unemployed with paying their own bills. And they don't need a long-term help. They do need immediate help to get kind of back on track. So there's situational. Then we have what we call systemic poverty. We have generational poverty. That means 2 or more generations have been living in poverty. And that's a really different situation. They have it's not even almost, it is. It's a very different culture.
It's entirely. Almost a learned experience, isn't it?
It's a learned experience, and it's not learned it's learned because that is the language that helps them survive. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, of course, they've passed it down. Just like what we are unaware of, culture is one of those things you're unaware of until you run into someone else's culture.
Right.
And so, as a middle class individual, I'm in the middle class, and I'm guessing you are too, Hank, although I'm in this beautiful studio, so I'm asking that, but in general, we have a certain language about us, the way we communicate around money and politics and around our families and all those kind of things. And we're really unaware of it until someone from a different culture walks in and then affronts that. And we think, wow, they're from a different planet almost. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then we would recognize their culture. Well, those who have grown up in systemic poverty are going to feel a little bit like they're from a different culture. So often when we say one thing, they're going to interpret it differently, and vice versa. And so it's bigger than just numbers to pull them out of that situation.
Right, because their life horizons are different than ours.
Well, their life horizons are immediate.
Yeah, and
mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
In thinking about that, it's strange because I've come across people like that
mm-hmm.
in my life and didn't really realize that it was just a systemic problem that affects you that way, and that there's really not a way out, I don't think, because it's just part of who you are. It becomes part of your existence,
yes.
I think.
It becomes
because
an
you're constantly
identity.
chasing the next opportunity, I guess. Yeah.
Well, the next immediate opportunity. It becomes an identity for sure.
Wow.
I wouldn't say that you can never leave it. For example, we know people all the time who are middle class, and one day they looked up and they were multimillionaires, and they're living a very different life than they did when they were middle class. They have a different set of friends. They have a different group and everything like around
Right.
them. And in some ways, the reason they end up with different friends is because in order to move into that next level, you're going to need people that will feed into that. Those relationships are key to keeping that status, so to speak. But they're actually key at every level. And interestingly enough, a little bit less so in the middle class. We like to have our relationships, but in poverty, that lower class, relationships are everything. That is the key to their survival. And so they think of relationships differently. And so then the middle class, for example, and this one's kind of hard for us. If they have a cousin that comes to them and says, "Man, I need a place to sleep," they feel obligated. It's the code of the impoverished to give them a couch, even if they've taken advantage of them multiple times. They know they're going to come in and eat all their food, even though they don't have any food. They're going to, borrow their car and probably do something to it, even if they only have one car. They feel obligated to do that. As a middle-class individual, we don't necessarily feel obligated. We feel like you should be taking care of your own stuff, and you wouldn't necessarily feel the freedom or even the compulsion to share that. You might actually feel shame about it and want to hide it, that you needed to sleep on someone's couch.
Sure, yeah.
And so
I can see that.
It's just a real different mindset, and so their relationships are their survival. And so in some ways, it can keep them trapped in that. And in other ways, that's how they've survived. And so you sort of understand. Like when you're...
So how do you escape that, though? I mean, really, that just seems... Is it education? I mean, is it just the knowledge that exists?
I wish it was that easy.
Yeah.
I wish it was so easy. We had a young woman that came in, and she is so cute. She finally passed her phlebotomy exam. So now she's a phlebotomist, and she's going to make a decent living, and she's going to be able to get hired by hospitals and all this stuff, and changes her whole world, right? She is the first person in her family to have ever reached for higher education. Now, we're not saying that she went all the way to become a doctor. I don't know. She might. She's a sharp young lady. But what's interesting is she didn't pass that the first 2 rounds, but we stuck with her.
Wow.
That's on a case-by-case basis. We have the greatest people who really care for our clients as they come in, and they are right in the thick of their lives and get to know them so they can say that. And so I asked our case manager, asked Kathy, I said, why did you keep paying for it? Like, why did you keep going after it? And she said, well, she had real challenges that were in the way. And as we began to conquer each one of them, and as we began to kind of explore, it was like, she's the first one to have ever gone after that. Imagine the mindset shift it took for her to chase that all the way to completion.
Right.
When she doesn't have any examples around her of people that she can say, well, that's, intrinsically they know that's how that's done. And so...
Yeah, it's almost like a cultural shift.
Massive
Cultural
shift.
education, I think, is what I was trying to direct that to.
Well, you wouldn't think the people who are in systemic poverty, who've grown up in poverty, they don't think of themselves as being invested into. They don't think of that. They don't think of going after education as an investment. Mm-hmm. It's a necessary evil. They got to do it. They got to check the boxes. They don't have people around them talking in that sort of language. Mm-hmm. And you see this, it's very apparent in higher education. They'll ask you when you go into higher education, why is it that, are you first generation? Are you the first generation student to go into higher education? Mm-hmm. So I adopted my middle daughter when she was 16, and she came into my house. And so she made it all the way to A&M. She's a smart girl.
Awesome.
And we were really proud of her. Yes. And we got her in, and I said, you should take advantage of the idea that you are a first generation student. And she was a little insulted by that, because she had been at the top of her class and she was really proud of it. And she should be. She'd worked really hard. And she said, why does it matter? Why does it matter that I'm the first generation?
Right.
And you do wonder that. Mm-hmm. Well, so I asked her, I said, well, tell me your experiences. And at this point, her experiences is that she'd been to a monster truck rally. Nothing wrong with it. I have too. They're pretty fun. And she had, but I asked her, I said, well, where have you ever traveled? Nowhere. She'd really traveled nowhere. I said, well, what museums have you ever been to? None. She'd never been to a museum. Have you ever been to concerts? No. She had had no experiences like that. I said, well, what did your family talk about? Did they talk about politics? Did they talk about finances? Did they talk about education? Like, what did they talk about? They just talked about whatever that day's need was. They just talked about things that really led to survival is really where they stayed, because that's where they were. So there's a lot of brokenness in the family that she came from. And so, but a middle-class family or someone who's been educated, not necessarily that you have to have higher education, but, you know, if you're a family that reads a lot and things like that, you're going to have a very different vocabulary, for example. In my own home, my mom would say, well, go pull out the dictionary. One, we had a dictionary in our home. And two, we all knew how to use it. And my parents used words that we didn't understand, so that it forced us to go and pull out a dictionary because there was an expectation for education. So we were being exposed to things outside of just a daily sort of system. And so when she's getting ready to go to college, I don't want her in a class of 300 where she's going to get lost. She had the opportunity to take smaller classes of 30 where she'd have a lot of access to the professors and could ask those hard questions and really be able to advocate for herself. And she didn't take any of my advice, and found herself on academic probation in the first semester. And to her credit, she graduated very well from A&M, and I'm really proud of her. It's about to finish her master's. But that first semester was really surprising to her, that it didn't come easy. And she came home and felt like we'd be disappointed, but I knew it was going to happen. Why? Her system did not set her up to be successful in school. Nothing in her history other than her knowledge of this is my way out. That's as much as she had. She wasn't given the tools to really make it her way out. So how did she come out of all that? She had new relationships, a family that could believe in her, a family that had degrees hanging on the wall, that knew that she could do this. I could take her around. We say, well, we need to go talk to this counselor. We need to advocate for this. We need to talk to this. Let me make some phone calls. I could do that. Why? Because I had history with that. And so she didn't, and I could bring that into the equation, but from where she came from, that wasn't accessible to her. So part of it is just having the social structure around you to support you out. So how do you get out of poverty? You know somebody. That's really what it comes down to. You got to have some relationships. The fastest way out of poverty is to marry somebody in middle class.
Wow.
Okay, now that sounds really like, well, of course, because they're going to make more money and they can pull you out. No. They become a social interpreter for you, and they will begin to pull you out of that. Because in order for you to move from jobs that would have been those just basic jobs that are just going to, really low income jobs, to move into a more of a middle class job, you have got to have a social interpreter along the way. And the quickest way for that to happen is for you to marry out of it. It doesn't always happen, of course. And so the second way for that to happen is for you to have a case manager or an agency that will spend time with you and help you navigate those sort of paths to walk out.
Okay. Sounds complicated. Sounds hard.
Well, yeah, it's real hard. So imagine, Hank, and maybe I'm probably talking to someone who is a billionaire, but let's just say if I said, Hank, are you a billionaire? And then I said, well, get it together, Hank. Get your act together. Become a billionaire. And I was serious about it. You should become a billionaire, Hank. We can all kind of wish you would, and please invite us over. But the truth is, you would say, well, if I was really serious about it and really pushing you, I would say, well, Hank, how are you going to do that? You would probably tell me, if I asked you that, how would you do that, Hank?
There's no pathway to that.
Okay, there's no pathway.
Yeah, there's literally no pathway.
There's literally no pathway.
Yeah. I mean, there really isn't.
But the truth is, what do we tell people the American dream? You can become anything you want to become, right? That's what we say.
That's what we say.
That's what we say. You can become anything you want to become. And yet, the truth is that everybody has to have an entry point. You have to have that one door open to you, and you have to know that's the door you better walk through.
It's hard to get off zero. So it's really hard to get off zero.
And then let's say you walk through that door, Hank. Do you know how to act like a billionaire?
No, not at all.
Do you even know how to think like a billionaire? Like, I don't even know that I know I don't know how to think like a billionaire. I really would like to know some billionaires right now that they could,
Sure.
if you know any, please send them my way. But the truth is that is a different system on how they work. And for me to have you jump from middle class to even upper middle class to becoming a billionaire is a huge jump. Even jumping from upper middle class or middle class to a multimillionaire is a huge jump, because we don't think like they think. They think in a whole different sort of way. They have a different vernacular. They spend their
and it's
time
natural.
differently.
That's what gets me, is that it's natural due to exposure, and it seems like long-term exposure as well. So I mean,
it's not an impossible jump. Okay, from middle class to becoming a multimillionaire is not an impossible jump, because
I've been jumping a long time. I haven't gotten there.
it's not. I know. I haven't made the leap yet
I'm about
either.
jumped out.
But I do know a lot of people who've made that leap.
Okay.
And I will tell you, they talk differently once they reach there. I'm not saying that they're not accessible. They're not kind people. They have a very different worldview in the end. They see the world differently. Someone who's coming from poverty sees the world for what they can get done today. Everything's
I
very
think that's
immediate.
the core, isn't it? Isn't it? It's
very
worldview.
immediate. Well, for sure, because they've been taught on some levels, you need to be concerned with today, because you're in survival mode all the time. And so I can't even, if you've ever been in a situation, maybe you've gone through a tragic death or a long-term illness or something catastrophic in your life, maybe a house fire or something. I remember when we were kids, our house was flooded. I grew up in New Caney, so this is my neighborhood I'm talking about.
Sure. Okay.
And I grew up in New Caney, and our house was flooded in one of the hurricanes, and we were taken out on a houseboat. And I remember coming back, and there was a lot of time, like, we weren't thinking about college entrance exams. We were thinking about, we need to rip all the sheetrock out of our house,
Right.
and that went on for months and months and months, trying to put our house back together. Now imagine your whole life is some level of survival mode. It's really hard. It's that whole Maslow's hierarchy of need. If you can't take care of the basics, you can't move into any of the other areas to grow and move and change your life. And so, and that's why something like the mission is so important. I mean, if you go back to our family we talked about in the very beginning, when an organization like the mission does not exist, we have an entire section of people, and now we know in our area it's like nearly 16%. That's a huge amount of people in our area.
I didn't know it was that big. That's huge.
That would fall through the cracks, and there's nowhere for them to be caught. And so, I mean, organizations like the mission are essential organizations in our communities. They do more than just a handout. They literally disrupt things that would cause people to fall even further back into survival mode. And so now we have this family. The missions has reached in. We've helped them with a little bit of rent assistance, got them back on track. Now we have the son and the daughter. They're back in school. They're gonna make it now. They're gonna make it, right, because the mission has disrupted that cycle for them. That's a huge thing. And when that son and daughter are able to continue down that path and they graduate from high school, we know they're going to earn over $300,000 more in their lifetime just from graduating from high school. And so imagine if we don't exist, none of that happens for them. And you say, well, there's government programs. Most of the people who come to see us are already on government programs.
Right. Yeah. Government programs just don't work. I'm sorry, but they don't. They're designed as a Band-Aid, and the Band-Aid just gets bad after a period of time, and then the wound gets more infected. And yeah, I mean, it just doesn't work.
Well, it's lacking something in that we are working hard to do, and that's really the relationship part of it, because it's on such a large scale. And we saw what happened last November when all of those government programs and SNAP benefits went away. And we saw how that affected people. And even though they were returned, and many of them didn't receive them back until January, those that got to keep them, because we do know a lot of them came off of that depending on their demographic, because they had changed some of the how you qualify for it.
Okay.
And so there are people now that are falling off SNAP benefits, or they were greatly reduced. Maybe they were receiving 600 in groceries.
Food stamps.
SNAP
correct?
is
Okay.
food stamps for those of us that remember them. The stamps on something,
Mm-hmm.
and so but now it's just a little EBT card, and
Okay.
and so maybe they were receiving 600 before, they're receiving 200 now. Or they're receiving nothing.
$200 ain't much to live on.
It's not. And some people are receiving
Yeah.
a generous amount depending on the size of their family. And they still are coming to see us. Why is that? They're never receiving all of the amount. And there's other things that we do besides that. I mean, one of the areas that is a big thing for us, because we talked about education, as if that it's not a full solution. Just handing somebody the opportunity to go to school is not a solution. They really have to have some hand holding along the way. I mean, I got through school because I had some hand holding along the way. Most people do. My daughter, lots of phone calls, lots of you can do this, lots of we're not going to give
Sure.
up, all along the way to get to the other side of that. Because school can be really challenging. Any of those big things
I
are.
remember. Yeah.
And so
It's tough. Yeah.
it is tough. It's tough when you have lots of stability and lots of support. So imagine if nobody in your family's ever been to school, never graduated from college, never gone to anything outside of that. And so, like, I'm the first person who graduated from college in my family, but I'm not the first person who sought other education or certifications and things like that. There was always, and my parents were readers and they were intelligent. And I told you we had dictionaries in our home. And so there was lots of conversation like that in our home. But imagine if you have none of that. So we love our scholarship program at the mission. We love getting to help them. We're so grateful. MSED helps us with a grant every year to continue that process and others. And so we're really grateful for those who support that scholarship program. And we make it really personal. And I think Kathy Martin, our client service director, does an excellent job. She keeps a list on her wall. I always think of that like the list of she's putting on her personal refrigerator,
Yeah.
just to make sure that those individuals, she follows them along. She's checking boxes, trying to see where they're at, encouraging them along the way, giving second chances when they absolutely have to have them. We've seen some great success. One of the young women last year came in with her mom. Her mom's been a long-term client. She was in our end-of-year letter. And she suddenly finds herself as a single mom of 4. And she says, and she starts getting groceries, starts getting assistance, clothing, as you can imagine, for kids can be very expensive. And she said, could I talk about one of those scholarships? Well, she jumps in full force, becomes the top of her class really quickly, and she becomes a respiratory care therapist.
Okay.
They make really good money.
Yeah.
She has 3 hospitals after her because she's done so well. Part of me gets a little emotional about it, thinking about how here's this young woman with all this potential just sitting there that would have been unrealized if there hadn't been the opportunity given to her. And so we're so grateful we get to be part of that process. But in so many ways, she was successful. Not only is she tenacious, hardworking, and extremely smart. Okay, we're not going to take anything from her.
Right.
She did a great job. But we also step in alongside her and walk through that process with her every step of the way, checking in, seeing how she's doing, making sure she's okay, continuing to offer support, groceries, practical things that she's going to continue to need. When certain needs arise, okay, how can we find a solution to that? Because we want to see you become successful. One of the things that we're doing right now is we opened a computer lab in our building.
Okay.
That's a huge hurdle from somebody to be able to find a job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe even apply for school, maybe even write a paper. I met with Lone Star and they mentioned, I thought this was so shocking. They said they have all these students. They couldn't figure out why they were doing okay on quizzes, but they weren't doing very well on their papers. And they started doing some research and found the kids were taking the class on their phone. It's the only computer they have access to, which is shocking in today's world.
Tough.
There's
Yeah, that would
kids
be tough.
without access to computers. So we've put in a computer lab and allow our clients to come in and have access with Wi-Fi and a printer and the ability to do those kind of things. And so anything that we can begin to remove obstacles, and there's plenty of them, they're real obstacles for them. They're not, because sometimes we like to say they're excuses, or that people stay stuck because they are just comfortable there. They want it. Of course, there's always going to be that population that's like that. But there's another population that really, really wants to move to the next level. They just can't quite reach it. And so they need a relationship and they need people to believe in them and encourage them to get to the next place. And we're doing our best to do that. And we want to do more along that line to begin to pull people as we said earlier, away from the line, so to speak, so they can be more stable and eventually be thriving and giving back to our community. That's our goal for them for sure.
So if it boils down to worldview and mindset, so do you think that removing individuals from the pressure cooker of life when they're just in that situation relieves the pressure to the point to where now I can, and I hate to use the word see, but now I can see the opportunities in front of me? Because a lot of times I think that if you're in survival mode, you're unable to see the opportunities when they're apparent.
Right.
Because you're just striving for the next meal or the next paycheck or whatever it may be.
It's
so I mean, do you think
yes.
that's kind of the key to taking that next step forward and going from maybe poverty to low income, from low income to medium income, medium to, you know what I mean? Just taking those steps forward to escape it.
There's a lot of organizations, and we're not one of them on this front necessarily, that work from homeless. They come in completely homeless, and they it's usually about a 2-year program to walk them all the way out. And part of that is dealing with your mindset, because if you don't deal with the mindset and you just put them in a hotel, let's say, or put them in a house, and then there's no responsibility, they don't grow. We all of us grow best in a struggle. We do. Well,
that's true. Yeah.
We just have to have a little bit of the struggle, or we aren't going to grow. We have to earn it.
Right.
And so
carry the cross.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you don't carry the cross.
You're not going to get there.
I've had conversations about responsibility with other guys before, and that, you know, I've come to realize at my age now that the more responsibility that's bestowed upon me, the better I do.
For sure.
So I don't do well when I don't have a boatload of responsibility. So the more responsibility I think a person carries, the better off they're going to be, just because they've got to do it.
You got to bear the weight.
Yeah.
You got to bear the weight. That's the only way to get strong. Yeah. You know, we can use the analogy of weightlifting all day long. It works though. It works really well because the more weight you carry, you're not designed to carry the super heavy weight in the beginning. You got to earn your way up there, but we have to bear the weight. We have to. We don't have a choice about it. And so the same thing for them, but they got to carry the right weight, and they got to be able, because they're carrying a weight already. Survival mode is for sure a weight and distraction, and overwhelming. But they got to carry some weight. I like to think of, they got to carry some weight with some hope. So they've got to carry the right kind of weight. Let's give them some hope. We had a young man come in who had been homeless and had found a home and had gotten himself in some trouble, needed some help to get out of that situation. We didn't even offer that much assistance, to be totally fair, in the end. But I think what we really offered was that we believed in him. Like, you can do this. Like, we would just kind of meet little needs along the way. And before I know it, he's done with all his trouble. He's cleaned that mess up. He's doing really well. He found a good job and started finding himself promoted up. And all of that began to be possible because he had some very real obstacles in his way. He needed gas to get to work. So we helped him with gas for a couple of weeks. That was one of those kind of things that just kind of, how do you make that leap? That's a huge obstacle. If you really don't have gas to put in your car, you're not going to get down the road. Right. We don't have public transportation in this area. Like, you have to have a car. And thankfully he had one. Maybe you need some clean clothes. You know, one of the things I asked him in the beginning was, well, how long has it been since I said, do you need some clothes?
Better clothes, yeah.
Yeah, and first he kind of made fun of, kind of joked, oh, you don't like my clothes, and that's not what I was saying. I was saying, do you need some? Like, do you need more? Is this your only outfit? Do you have another outfit that's similar to this? And it was shorts and flip-flops, you know, so kind of started getting quiet. Well, yeah, I could use some clothes. So that got real. So we give him some clothes. That's a huge hurdle when you go in to get a job interview and all the thing you have is shorts and flip-flops. Sure. And that's not what they want you to wear. Yeah. And so I said, well, what about some food? And then the tears start. Well, I could use some food because I've been living on ramen for about several months. So we load them up with some food. We load them up with a personal care item bag with, you know, shampoo and soap and all that stuff. Some clean clothes. Comes back the next day. Because he's going to start serving where we're at. Different person. Same situation, same circumstances, same problems. But he came back in carrying himself like a completely different person. And I feel like that was really a small thing what we were able to give him. But what we gave him really was hope that there's something good is coming. And we began to believe in him. Now, he still had to earn it. He still had to work out the process, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We can't snap our fingers and it all goes away. But one of the things we helped him do was turn his cell phone on. It wasn't very expensive. We helped him turn his cell phone on. And he goes, this is so helpful. Now I can actually call and get calls back on a job.
Sure.
You know, where are they supposed to call him? Like, he has no way for anybody to contact him about a job. So some of those things that we like to put out are, well, that they would get a job if they really wanted one. I think a lot of them really want one, but they have real hurdles in their way.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we can remove a hurdle, then we can begin to help that person move down the road. And Mission Northeast does that every day for people.
Okay. So what about the people who are okay,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, on the line, just barely making it,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you know, just one check away or one step away from disaster? You know, they get sick or their car breaks down or something like that. Do you find that once they get in the hole, it's
Mm-hmm.
really a struggle to get back out? Or they just need some help and it shoots them right back out and they're right back where they were and maybe even moving forward?
Well, and it depends on how soon they come and find help for that. And a lot of those people are going to find their family is going to help them, or some friends or
Mm-hmm.
things like that before they come to see us. Or there's other agencies that also help with that. But they get some help really fast. But the truth is that it's not fun living on the line, even if you can maintain it.
Right.
It's not fun to have your kids help you, like, pay the light bill every month and things like that. And that can look like all sorts of different people can find themselves there. I really think that what's important for that is that those folks are the ones that when we can begin to pour education into, we can begin to move them to the next leg of their journey. My husband used to say, my late husband, he used to encourage the guys that he would work with. He would say, you need to have a career. And we went to church in an area that wasn't popular. They didn't even understand that concept. Now, career in a middle class context is what we're all looking for, right? And a career is where people begin to invest in you and they create more value in you than you had to begin with, right? So
career has escalation. Right.
You yourself become a valuable commodity. Like you're your own. Okay. But a job is something you show up to and you get a paycheck and you go home, and anybody can do it, right? And so the young men didn't understand this. You know, they really fought him a little bit. Like, what do you mean career? Like, I don't know if I wanted to be a career. And I'll never forget talking to, after he had passed away, one of the young men talked to me about it. He said, I have an opportunity to get this certification. And if I do, I get to become a supervisor. And I said, well, then you should do that. I said, does it come with a pay raise? It should come with a pay raise. He goes, oh yeah, I'll get a significant pay raise. He does the class. He goes, I don't know if I can do the class. I don't know if I'll pass. I said, you're going to do great. So just go for it. So he goes for it. He passes. He becomes a supervisor. And he comes back to me and he goes, I get it now. I get what a career is. He suddenly had vision for his future. He had a whole different mindset shift in that because he had a little bit of investment in him. And suddenly he realizes with a little bit of work, he has taken one step away from that line of just existing, and now he has become valuable on a whole different level. And I just saw their whole life change. They had been living in an RV. They're living in a nice home now. Like, it just began to shift really, really fast with just a small investment into himself because he began to be more valuable. And that's kind of that population that I'd like to see us invest more into as a community. Those that are just on the line. They just need a little help to move to the next level because they become more stable in everything. And then you see their kids become more stable, and you see them eventually moving into a place where they're thriving and giving back to our community and building our community, which is what we want them to do.
Sure.
And what they want to do. They want to be those people too.
I get it. That's awesome.
For sure.
So how's Mission Northeast funded? How do you guys get all the money to do all this stuff?
Mission Northeast is primarily funded by our community. We have the best community. We have churches and partnerships. Of course, we're always looking for more funding so we can do more because our community demands it. We've had tremendous growth in the last 5 years.
Sponsorships and donations and things like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can donate online. or by check. We'll take it in pretty much any way that you want to send it our direction. But primarily we are privately funded. We have a few small grants, and then we have some partnerships such as with Entergy and others that allow us to distribute funds through their portals and things like that. So that allows us to have a greater reach and to get that money to our community, which is really important to us. And so that is how we're funded.
Yeah. Wow. That's got to be a monumental task.
Well, that's so far.
Seems like it would be.
Yes, it is. And yet, people have been very generous, and we're really grateful for that. I mean, there's always room for that, for more, for people to grow, because the need is continuing to grow in our area. Even though we have so much opportunity coming to our area, it's actually creating sort of a disparity. It's creating this gap.
Sure.
A bigger gap. So now while they have maybe some more jobs available, it's also making rent more expensive. It's making skilled jobs are becoming more available. It's becoming a bigger jump for people to get there. And so we're seeing a lot of that in our area. And so we would welcome that. One of the things that we haven't talked about that we do, one of our favorite programs is our Buddy Bag program. And that is we put together canned goods, like a small little bag in sort of like grocery bags every week for our school students. And we take that to 7 local New Caney schools within the New Caney ISD. And we give them to the counselors, and the counselors literally take those and put them in their backpacks so they can take them home. And that is to help our students who have food insecurity over the weekend survive, basically, to get through that weekend. So many of our students we found, now we have about 265 students across those 7 schools. They're identified by their counselors. And that those counselors will call us and say, we know this kid's they're coming to school hungry.
And that's a weekly thing?
It's a weekly thing. It goes throughout the entire school.
That's a bunch, yeah.
It is. And so we do child-friendly kind of meals. They need to be able to be easily prepared by a 5-year-old without the assistance of a parent or an older sibling. Many of those kids are left on their own for the weekend while parents work or they're away. And they don't have other siblings to help them, or maybe their siblings are also getting bags. It just depends. But they need to be able to have pop tops, so that becomes a little bit more expensive to provide. But we find that it's essential. It's not even a small thing. It's about $450 a year to sponsor one child for a weekend bag of food. And then we see that has a huge transformative effect on that child. You can imagine, Hank, I don't know, maybe you can do this. I don't know if I can. But you leave, your last meal is Friday at lunch, and your next meal is Monday at breakfast. And that's because you're on the school lunch and breakfast programs. So you can only imagine.
Rough.
Yeah. Now, add to that, you're growing. You're in possibly a very dysfunctional household. That's a lot of stress. We don't know. And then you're expected to play nice with others on Monday morning on the school bus, from the school bus all the way through. And maybe your next meal isn't breakfast. Maybe it's lunch. Tell me how did you do that as a second grader? How do you do that?
Yeah, I couldn't make that happen because I get grumpy before lunch every day.
See, so, you're not even winning that. So you can imagine. Right. So we send home food for a child. They get to school on Monday. They're in a better mood. They're not sick. This is important because when kids don't have proper nutrition, they get sick more often. We also found that their attendance rates go up dramatically, as you can imagine, on Friday because they know they're going to get their bag of food. School becomes a very positive place for them, and they start seeing school as a support in their life and as a good thing. And we want them to see those kind of places. And then they go through their weekend. We also find that they continue to grow at a normal rate. Those are very important things. But more importantly, they complete their grade level. And so they can go on to the next grade level. We already said earlier that if they can graduate from high school, they're going to earn $300,000 over their lifetime. If they can't graduate from high school, they also impede themselves from being able to go to higher education, where we began that process of investing into their life for them to be even greater wage earners. So there's a lot at stake here. And then we also know that if a child misses a grade and has to repeat it because of maybe lack of attendance or poor grades and things like that, that costs our county roughly $3,500 a student. But the cost of that student and how they see themselves now, how they view their world and how they view school, I'm not sure we can put a dollar amount on that.
Right.
and what that does to their future. And so it's a small investment. We're always looking for partners to help us with that program in particular, because it's one of our most treasured programs, because we know that it is making an immediate impact in our students every week. So we really love that one, because they're going to feel that immediately.
Right. Yeah, it's weird because this conversation's making me think about my own life a lot, and that usually doesn't happen at this table. So,
Okay.
I mean, every once in a while, I'll go back to when I was a kid. I lived a very different life then than I do now. My parents were both immigrants from Holland, and we were dirt poor. I mean, DIRT poor, and so a lot of the things that we've discussed actually kind of brought back memories for me. I'm like, wow, I was lucky to escape all that.
Right.
Because somehow I did. Don't really know how I did.
Right.
I'm just glad that it happened. But
For sure.
yeah, but I can see how, you can fall into the cycle and just stay there. And without someone to pull you out
Right.
and shake you off and dust you off and say, here's at least the next opportunity. If you're willing to take that step, maybe
Yes.
you'll be willing to step out farther.
Right.
You know?
Right. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I makes living in this space now, and I feel very fortunate to get to be at the mission. I would like to say that it's been an amazing experience to,
I'm sure it has. I mean, it's, and my mindset now about the mission, it used to be that you guys provide community assistance, but really you don't. I mean, y'all provide community investment. That's a big difference. It's a shift.
I like that term, community investment.
It really is.
Yeah, we really, we want to be more than a handout, but very often people need us to be a handout, and sometimes longer than you think it's going to be. I used to run recovery ministries for a long time before I did this, and I've kind of found myself there. It wasn't really my background. I would say, God, what am I doing here? And I think now, understanding this, and part of it was because it wasn't my culture, and so I could kind of be that guide out of that in so many ways. And so, but I mean, you can't help it. I love that season in my life. It was a really great season to watch people change and grow and become different. So that's sort of my background. And so getting to be here has been such a great place. I'm really grateful for it. But you also see, like, what does it take for somebody to change their whole life? That's really what we're asking, the question. And I've watched people do that from an addicted standpoint. They come in and they can't show up. I mean, they can't even show up sober. I mean, they have to get high or wasted just to get in the door, because it's so intimidating. And we know from that it takes a minimum of 5 decisions for them to get into a seat in a meeting. So 5 decisions. I mean, I get decision fatigue at the coffee shop. And so imagine 5 decisions and barriers, right?
Yeah, life-changing decisions.
Where is it? Yeah. When is it? I got to find people. People would message me on Facebook, but then they have got to find me on Facebook, and they got to get that information. They got to remember that information. They got to arrange for everything. So we would do everything in our power to take away what I would call their no's. Like we'd feed them, we'd take care of their kids, we did all those kind of things, trying to make it as accessible as possible. But what is the process for somebody who can't even show up sober because the meeting is that challenging to them? And I used to say it takes, because it's a faith-based ministry, and the mission is faith-based as well, but it takes a lot of drops of righteousness in someone's life until it gets on the inside. It's sort of like that. How many drops of water does it take to finally go through the rock, right? It takes a lot of drops of water. And so they come to the mission once a month. They're allowed to come once a month for groceries and assistance. We're meant to be supplemental, and so we can't see them every week. But they come in, and we actually have a volunteer now, and she's so great. I love her perspective, because she was one of our clients for a long time, years. She was our client. Wow. And during that time, she experienced homelessness. She's experienced all sorts of things. Now she's one of our greatest care partners, because she really understands them. She said this was her church. This is where she heard some hope. She said it's really hard in that place to believe that you even deserve anything better.
Right.
So, and you're getting it once a month. We have people come in all the time who tell us, this place is changing my life. They come once a month, Hank.
Well,
They
the big
come
difference,
one time a month.
right? The big difference, though, is you're not just feeding their physical needs, but you're hitting them from a psychological standpoint, changing their world, and that's
Yeah.
and that's
Well,
you know,
the truth is, we really care about them. We really, really care
Yeah.
about them. We really want to see them be okay.
right.
So when people come after us, and they do, because they want to challenge it, and I appreciate the challenge. I don't ever turn it away. And they say things like, because they're just trying to understand when they come at you like this. And they'll say, well, aren't you just a handout for a while? You see, I still got to get enough drops to break through the rock of their own limiting beliefs, their own psychology, their own culture. It takes a lot of drops to finally break through that. And if I only get to do that one time a month, imagine how long that takes. Some people may never catch it, but some people will. And then there becomes that one day where they finally say, maybe I deserve more. Maybe I could do something different. And so it's amazing to me how that transpired. It's amazing, that moment of clarity,
Right.
where they finally say, I can do this, and everything changes. I've watched people in recovery for years. They would sit in my meetings, and I would think, we are doing them no good. Like nothing is happening in their life. And then all of a sudden, everything shifts. It's like it finally got in on the inside, or maybe it began to take root. That's sort of that picture that we just, we put a seed and then it begins to bear fruit in their life. And it takes a while for that process to happen for somebody. And we would like to see more of that, more opportunities, more programs, more places and spaces within the mission that would foster the actual mental and emotional shift it's going to take for them to begin to grab hold of a different life.
Right.
Because
And I bet you there's a lot of fear too, because
sure.
you're used to living a certain way and you have
Right.
fear in change. I mean, I have fear in change. So I mean, I could see that anyone else would too.
Well, let's go back to the analogy that you become a multimillionaire.
Okay.
Hank, I'll let you be the multimillionaire in this one, okay?
Can't wait.
You can't
Let's
wait.
go.
And you become, let's say, but you're going to have like $50 million, okay? Let's make it really different. So,
See, I can't even fathom. I literally can't.
okay.
For some reason, that doesn't seem like it would ever actually be a possibility for me.
It's
just
hard
doesn't-
it's hard to conceptualize, right?
Really is.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're worth $50 million. Do you think that your friends that live in your neighborhood here are going to invite you over for dinner if you're living in a home that's
there's no
that
way.
sustains a life like that? When
Right.
you're jet setting, when you're talking to key players in your industry, when you're moving into a whole different arena, because they can't relate to you. So what did you leave behind? You left behind your entire social support system.
Yeah, your whole network.
And now
Yeah.
yes, you have all your needs met. Now you have all the money that you could possibly want. You don't have any friends.
Right.
Who do you call when your wife gets sick? Who do you call when something happens in your life? You don't have a social structure anymore. And so it's not just scary. We're asking someone to, when they step out of that and they really get to a different lifestyle and get themselves, they're having to build an entire new community.
Yeah,
on
you're
top of that.
abandoning your life. is
You're
what
abandoning
yeah.
your life, and it is
Even though it's hard and
terrifying.
yeah, sure.
It's
Wow.
very scary.
Yeah.
And so, and then on the flip side, as you're trying, maybe you're running for your life. You're trying as fast as you can to get out of there. You have family and friends, because remember, the most important thing in a poverty mindset is the relationships you have. You have, as let's say you do make it out. Let's say you do get the education, you do get the better job. So many times you keep the mindset. And the reason is because you still have all of these friends and family pulling on you, which in many ways keeps you from actually experiencing the life you've now earned, because they're still needing money from you. They're still needing that couch from you. And you feel that tug and that pull to help them as much as you can, because that's the code of that culture.
Right.
And in so many ways, it's an honorable code on one level. It's also a code that keeps them stuck. And so learning to have boundaries and learning to have the ability to say, I can't. And being okay with that is really hard for them, because they're leaving behind all their support. And that might be their family. That might
Sure.
be
Yeah.
a whole lot there. So it's a huge issue for them. It's leaving more than just the numbers on a page. It's really a complete culture shift. They may move out of their neighborhood. They may want to move out of their neighborhood so bad, but they've been living next to this one family for 20 years, or they've grown up in this place and they know everybody and they all know them. That's really terrifying.
Sure. Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we know on the other side of that is a whole other group of people but here's the thing about it, who may or may not be accepting of them. Because remember, their language is different, their culture is different. They're not going to necessarily socially interpret what's happening in that situation. And
it's going to take a while.
They're going to need some people to help guide them through that process and help them grow in that.
Well,
but they can do it, and it's there for them. And we're going to do everything we can to help them get there. The ones that want it, the ones that'll grab hold of it, and walk alongside them and see them flourish. And so we hope there's a lot more single mamas out there looking for us and saying, if you just give me a chance and believe in me a little bit, I'm going to grab hold of it and run for it. Okay. Because that's what the mission wants to be here for, along with just meeting those monthly needs, along with stepping in and disrupting that cycle that would just kind of take them under. We want to continue to be here for all those things.
Okay. So, normally I would ask you what you would say to someone who's struggling as a close to this. But actually, I want to go the other way. What would you say to an individual or a business that also wants to invest in the community? How can they help Mission Northeast to carry on this mission and get things done?
Well, we would just invite you to partner with us. But for the grace of God, any of us could find ourselves in this situation. And we're so grateful right now that we get to be the hands that hand it out. But we could very well be flipped that in any moment.
Sure.
We know our community is always, we need to all address the idea that in East County, our poverty rate is so high. That's all of our problem. And we need to begin to address that in a very real way. And one of the ways they can do that is by investing in organizations like Mission Northeast that are going to reach in and not only be that monthly assistance until somebody can begin to have some hope for their life, but they can also, that will step in a little bit further and push them to the next level so they can have education and some opportunities. And so that's only going to make our community stronger. It's only going to make us better. And as we grow together, we need to help each other. And so those are some, we're still looking for partners for our Buddy Bag program. We're always looking for partners to come in and help us with our scholarship program and be part of those kind of things. And we're looking for people who care about feeding people. Like food is as you've heard on the news, has become a huge problem as we see groceries skyrocket. We need people who will continue to invest in our community in that way. We are seeing changes. We are seeing people, their lives turned around and who no longer need our services. And that's always the goal. We want them to one day step away and say, we're done. We don't need to be here anymore.
The only business I've ever seen that wants to get rid of clients.
We want to get rid of clients. Yeah. We do. But for the right reasons. We want to get rid of clients for the right reasons. We're there for them for as long as they need us. And for some people, that's going to be the whole forever. They're always going to need us. And other people, when given some opportunities and when we can begin to remove those very real blocks. For example, we had a business come in, a partner who said, I told him about the computer lab. He said, let me do that. I want to be that.
Great.
And they funded the entire computer lab, 5 computers, set us all up. And what does that do? We did a class on building resumes. Mm-hmm. We had a young woman in the class who went and took her resume from the class that she built and she put it in for some jobs. She didn't get one job. She got 2 jobs.
Wow. 2
jobs. What was her big hurdle? Knowing how to write a resume and having a way to actually put the resume in. Okay, those are not small bumps in a parking lot. Those are mountains to get around for someone who has no access.
Sure.
And so we're doing those types of things to begin to give access to people so that we can take away all the reasons that have really held them back. Because I believe in my heart, I really truly believe that they really do want to move away from that line as fast as they can. They just need us who are doing a little better financially to believe in them and throw some hope at them and say, hey, we're going to be here. We're going to help you. We're going to begin to remove the hurdles that are holding that back.
Cool. So how would I reach out to Mission Northeast?
You can go to Facebook or Instagram. You'll see us on Facebook, Mission Northeast. Or you can go missionnortheast.org, and that is our website. And so, or you can call us at 281-354-1200. We're located in New Caney on 494. We've been at that location for 25 years. We've actually been operating for 30 years as of last year. So it's our 31st year.
Wow.
And so we've been doing this for a long time, and we're really grateful not only for just our opportunity in the community, but the legacy that's been built here.
Mm-hmm.
And
so you accept donations, volunteers? Mm-hmm. You need volunteers, I would imagine.
We accept volunteers. We always are looking for volunteers. We're open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday morning from 8:30 to 11 for client services. And so Mondays we're open only to our volunteers and staff as we receive donations. We receive donations of clothing in good quality, of course shoes, gently used housewares, not generally furniture, but other types of housewares. We're always taking in food for food drives and things like that. And you can contact us and we'll help you put that together so you'll understand kind of what we're looking for. And we appreciate that. And those are no small things, those kind of donations, just the physical things. If they want to collect, do a food drive for us at your office, or do a toothbrush drive for us at in your business. We put those kind of items out as well. Bars of soap and all those kind of things we feel like are essentials for our clients. And if you look on our website, or if you want to contact us, we can help you do all those kind of things too.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I appreciate you coming in and telling me all about this. This is awesome.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, you've opened my eyes to, I just have a different view of poverty now and how to escape it. And I didn't think about all these things. So that's interesting. Well, it's been good.
Thank you for the opportunity, Hank. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys, there you have it. Mission Northeast is right here in Montgomery County. Not only do they provide assistance, but they provide an investment in the community, and that's a big, big deal. And, check them out. They're online. She said they're on Facebook. They also have a website. If you'd like to donate, they'll accept a donation from $250,000 all the way up to $250,000. So whatever you guys want to do to help out would be a big thing. Their Buddy Backpack program is a real successful program. I've seen it, and they do need help with that because, unfortunately, the need for that is growing. So if you guys could help out with that, it'd be awesome. I'm Hank. This is Hank's Think Tank. See you in the next one. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Hank's Think Tank would like to thank the following community sponsors: